In today's video, we're going to focus in on Azami, and we're going to take a look at one pro Azami setup for every ranked map on Siege. Now here's just a few examples that you're going to see in today's video, pixel peaks and one-way setups that you're going to want to know to help you rank up on Siege. Now make sure to drop down into the comment section, let me know what else you'd like to see on the channel as we move forward, and of course let's hit 500 likes on the video. Now we're really close to 200k subscribers, so make sure to hit that sub button so you can keep up to date on the videos. So without me talking anymore, let's dive in and get started. So we're going to start off with this first one here on Chalet, down inside the blue hallway in the basement. Now this is a really sick one-way setup to stop anyone trying to make that quick push down that blue stairs towards the bomb site. So on the side of this little generator on the wall, where the little arm is coming out from it, if you put an Azami barrier exactly where I've pinpointed, you'll know if you've done it right, where it's kind of like this, like a slant on the side of the barrier. And then what you need to do is you need to place a second barrier on the wooden beam exactly where I've pinpointed on screen. Now this will give you that one-way angle to look all the way up to the staircase. Now you'll see once I get into position behind this barrier, it is a perfect little angle right onto that kind of midpoint of the blue stairs. Now I'll show this from the other perspective to show what this looks like. Once they reach that halfway point, you can already shoot them. You can see the bullets on the wall, but they can't see absolutely anything unless they move down the stairs and crouch as they're doing it. So this is a really strong little setup here to stop anyone trying to make their play down a blue staircase. Moving on to the next one here, and this one takes us over onto Bank, and it's located on the second floor just outside the elevator. Now this is a really strong little kind of pixel angle that you can set up. Of course, there's a really high traffic area with people coming up marble stairs, coming out of stockroom, coming down the hallway from janitor. Now there is the risk of the main spiral staircase, of course, but if you have someone holding that position and have some utility to slow them down coming up that stairs, this is a really strong position to have yourself in. Now what you can do here is by placing an Azami barrier on the very bottom of the trash can, exactly where I pinpointed. You'll know once again where there's that little gap on the right hand side, and then you can place a second barrier looking at the very top of the sign on the wall, and you'll see and you'll know that you're doing it right, where the barrier is kind of like slanted out as you're throwing it. So you can sit right behind this and you'll have a perfect little pixel angle all the way down the hallway, so anyone coming up marble or coming out of stockroom into that hallway, you can catch them off guard and pick them off with relative ease. You can see this from the other perspective here. If there's an attacker coming down that janitor hallway, you can see where the bullets are hitting, and the flag is going to make it really difficult for them to see you. Now I'm going to be streaming over on Twitch tonight, so if you want to pop over, if you have any questions on this video or other videos you'd like to see on the channel, make sure to pop over and say hello. Now moving on to the next one here, taking me over on to border. This is on the second floor, so this is a really sick little one-way setup right in front of this metal detector. So if you shoot a hole in the floor and place a Kiba barrier right on that little edging just below the metal detector, you can then place a second barrier on the top of the door. This is a complete one-way angle onto 90, and of course if you make holes into the wall, you can see all the way through break room onto the break room door outside. Now there's also a little gaps in either side, so you can kind of like swing from either side as well. Now you'll see this again from the other perspective what this looks like. So if you're sitting right in the middle of the barrier inside the site, the attacker is not going to be able to see you at all. You'll be able to shoot them, but they will not be able to see you whatsoever. Now of course if you do swing those little gaps, they will be able to get a shot off on you, but again this is a really strong one to try out. And moving over onto Skyscraper for this next one, this is a sick one. It is a complete one-way angle for anyone coming up that stairs into top house. Now what you can do here is basically place a Kiba barrier on the very middle top of the mini bar, and then right where I'm standing you'll get a vault prompt up on top of the bar. Now once you're up here, you just break the bottles on the top of the shelf, and then if you want to make sure that they absolutely can't shoot you, can add a second barrier which will go right up and touch the top of the shelf. Now from here, because you're so high up and you can see all the way down to that little top office area there, when they push up the staircase or come in from Dragon, they'll be looking towards the side and they actually will not be able to see you unless they crouch. Now I'll show this from the other perspective what this looks like. It's such a strong position to be in. Unless of course they destroy the Kiba barrier, they're not going to be able to see you at all. You can see where the bullets are hitting on the wall. So again, it's a really sick spot to use. Now we're heading over onto Kanal for another really strong power position for the defender here. Of course, there's going to be people coming down scuba stairs, so you're going to want to have a position here to be able to watch anyone coming in trench door or coming down that main stairs. So right where I'm looking at here, just on the little edge coming out from the side of the door, you can place a Kiba barrier, and again, you'll know if you've done it right with that little kind of slant to the side of the barrier. And then on the top of the frame here, exactly where I've marked, you can place a second one, which will leave this nice little kind of gap here that you can sit behind and pick anyone off as they rush through trench door into bathroom. You know, you can also peek the left side and get another nice little pixel angle onto the staircase as they're making their way down. Now, some people will be like, this isn't really a pixel angle. There's quite a large gap there, so anyone swinging from trench or coming down the main stairs has a really good chance of picking you off. Well, if that's the case, then I have another alternative for you. Instead of doing it on that side, you can do it on the other side of the door frame, which will actually give you a complete pixel peek. Very, very small gap. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot less to see, but again, it's another option for you to use. And moving on to the next one here over on Coastline. Now, the most common setup here for service entrance is placing the Kiba barrier just off the edge of the window frame, which leaves that small little pixel angle onto the door. Now, of course, this is a really strong one, but there is an alternative. So if you place a Kiba barrier on the top of the door frame, right where I pinpointed, don't put it right on the frame. Make sure you just move it up a small bit. And then on the little kind of white mark on the side of the bomb chassis here, you can place a second barrier. Now you'll have a perfect one-way angle onto the door. They will literally not be able to see you unless they crouch, and of course at that point, once they peek the door, you already have shots going off on them because they won't be able to see you, so you have that first advantage to pick off the attacker. Now, again, moving on to the next one here, we have another really sick one-way angle that you can use here and a pixel peek. It's kind of like both, really. This is down on Consulate inside the garage. Now, I love this little setup. It actually is such an effective one for watching the main wall and anyone coming in from that yellow door. So on this crate right next to yellow pillar, which a lot of people like to hold when you're trying to defend the site, if you place a Kiba barrier right on the top middle of it, it'll give you that little pixel angle onto that yellow door. Now you can add a second one onto the wall exactly on that little groove on the side of it, and you'll have a perfect pixel angle onto the main wall, and you can still peek to the right out towards the yellow door. Now you'll be able to see it from the other perspective when you're walking around by the yellow door what they're seeing. It's a really small little angle. They're not going to have a lot of time to be kind of like scoping this out and seeing where you're positioned, so you'll be able to shoot at them before they even get a chance to figure out where that little gap is between the two barriers. We're going to move on to the next one here, and this one's going to take us over onto Theme Park inside the Armory Throne bomb site. Now this is another really sick one-way setup, a really strong position, especially late on in the round when the attackers have no choice but to push into split and head towards the bomb site. So on the side of this fire pit, right where that little bolt is, if you place a Kiba barrier and then follow it up with a second one above the door frame, you have a perfect one-way onto that split area as the attackers are pushing in the door. So it's a really strong position. You can see from the other perspective here that they have no chance of seeing you. They'll have to use utility to destroy the barriers, but already by peeking the door to do so, they're already putting themselves at risk. Now here's a little bonus one for actually over by the throne. If you're holding behind the throne, you can place a Kiba barrier just exactly where I pinpointed, and it actually leaves that small gap under the leg of the chair, and you can see all the way over to the split door. So you could have the setup on one side with someone playing that, and then have someone on this side playing the split as well. So it's a really strong double up for the defenders. And moving on to Oregon, the most common setup for a one-way here is by putting one on the top of the door frame just outside the trophy door into the dorm's main site, and placing another one on the side of the cabinet. But this really effective one here, I believe Atheno found this one. If you stand right up against the door frame and look down while crouched, you can place a Kiba barrier on the bottom of the door frame. And then what you can do is on the side here, by following the shard of glass on the picture, you can place one on the edge of the door frame, and it will leave a small pixel angle onto the trophy entrance. Anyone pushing through there is pretty much done for. It's such a small pixel, it's going to be really difficult for them to get a shot on you. Now also, to cover yourself, you can place another barrier on the side of the foosball table to stop anyone who's rappelling up onto that game's window, to keep you safe while you're using this pixel angle. Now moving on to the next one here takes us over onto Villa. This is located in the classical hall heading down towards 90. Another one-way setup that you can use while holding the 90 as they're pushing up the main stairs into books. So by placing a Kiba barrier on that little brick on the side of the wall exactly where I pinpointed, and then placing a second one about halfway down the arch on the wall. You can then jump up on top of the table here and you will have a one-way all the way down to the top main stairs near books. Again, a really strong power position, the only risk being anyone rappelling up that window. So you'd have to either put a Kiba barrier on the window or have someone castle it off, so you have a better chance of holding this spot as the attackers are pushing down the hallway. And moving on to the next one, and this takes us over onto Clubhouse. This is located down inside the armory. Now this is a really good one. I love using this spot. It's really well hidden as well. So if you just jump up onto the shelf in the back of the room here, punch a couple of holes in the cabinet and then shoot out the door, you can actually see out through blue in towards Jenny and down towards Oil Pit. Now what you can do here is place a Kiba barrier on the side of the shelf exactly where I've marked, and then you can jump back up onto the shelf and you'll have cover from the barrier, and you can use the little peaks to see all the way out into blue. Now you can double up with a little bonus one here on the side of the handle on this locker, and you can lay prone or have a teammate lay prone, shooting at their legs as they come out of blue. So it's a nice little power position set up there for the defenders. Now you can see from the other perspective what this looks like. They're just seeing multiple barriers or don't know where they're looking. You can see the punch hole is tiny on the cabinet. It's going to be very difficult for them to see you in that spot. Now moving over onto Kafe, and this is a little setup here over in Bitch Corner. A lot of people put, you know, deployable shields over here or just very straightforward barriers, but you can use the same kind of method here as you would on Oregon. Again, crouching in front of the edge here and making sure you place the Kiba barrier in the middle at the bottom. It kind of makes that little V-shape gap in the wall. Now you can place a second one if you follow the ledge as I'm doing here on the ceiling and move across to the right. You can place the second Kiba barrier and it will leave a small pixel gap in the barrier. You'll be able to see out towards Cigar Shop and all the way over towards Ticket onto that red stairs wall. Now the great thing about the red stairs side is that it's actually really difficult for them to see you as they're pushing in that wall. You'll see here if they're coming in from Cigar Shop, they'll be able to see that little small pixel gap in the barrier, but if they're coming in from the red wall side, it's like almost impossible for them to see you. So you have the advantage every single time unless they have utility to destroy the barriers. So it's a really strong one, definitely worth trying out, especially when the attackers are always pushing this area to take control on towards the bomb site. And moving over onto Outback for this next one takes us into the red bedroom on the first floor. So over in the corner, if you just impact and break the shelf in the middle, keeping the other two intact, and then by walking over to the fridge here, you just have to wiggle around a little bit. You'll get a vault prompt on the side of the fridge to get up on top of it. And then once you're up here, you can place a Kiba barrier on the top edge of the fridge, and you can look over the top of it onto the door of the site. Now, if you keep standing like I'm positioned here and let the barrier actually leave that little gap on the left, you can pop up over the barrier or swing out to the left of it to kind of confuse the attackers as they're pushing in the doorway. So again, a strong one. The only risk, of course, is that you're kind of pinned over in that corner, so you're going to want maybe have a defender or a teammate helping you while you're in that position. Now, moving on to Lair for this next one. This is located inside the R6 room on the second floor. A lot of people like to jump up on this little kind of edge table here to watch over the tops of these half walls. What you can do to add on to this and make it a really strong position is by placing a Kiba barrier on the edge on the ceiling here, and then following the line like I'm doing, you can place a second barrier which will create that one-way angle inside the site. Anyone coming in over that by that far side door there have no chance of getting shots on you, and you can bonus this up by adding another one here on the side of this just to really give you that extra bit of cover, so you can walk along the tops of those little tables and they have a very difficult time trying to pick you off. You can throw another one up on top of the door to the left as well, just to give you that extra cover. You can see here from the attacker's perspective, it's really difficult for them to see any of the defenders. You can see where the bullets are hitting, so they have no chance as they push in the door. Now, over onto Emerald Plains, if you do find yourself on this dogship map, you might as well place a Kiba barrier inside admin on the top of the door frame and a second one on the other door frame just towards the green stairs. Really simple but highly effective, because you can use these little half walls here by the desks to give you a perfect one-way angle. They're going to have to approach the door to break the barriers. Again, very straightforward but a really strong little setup, and you can add on to this by placing another one for the other bomb site in the other room. So what you can do here is by going over into the other room and placing a Kiba barrier on the side of the bomb chassis, you can then jump up on top of the desk that you're using for the first one-way and walk across the top of the shelving unit. Now once you're in the corner, you can break the printer and the filing cabinets, and you can sit up on top there and you can see over the top of the barrier onto the door on the far side of the site. So this is kind of like a nice little setup for the map that most likely you're never going to play, but if you do, then you know to use this one. Now on to Nighthaven here for this last little setup. Now a lot of people like to reinforce the left wall or the right wall. It doesn't really matter, it's a kind of your own personal preference. But inside this room here, you can basically place a Kiba barrier right on the edge of this shelving unit in the middle, and you can get this weird kind of like multiple little gaps in the barrier because of the shape of this unit. And then you can place a second one in the front of it in the really bottom right hand corner, and it will create like 3 little small pixel gaps in the barriers. Now this is going to be really confusing for the attackers as they swing in the main breach trying to get the diffuser down. You can be moving between these little gaps and getting shots off on the attackers. It's a nice little simple setup, but a highly effective one, definitely worth trying out. And it is consistent when you're placing the barrier that it will always make that weird little kind of like triple gap in the barrier. I will show you this from the other perspective too, so you get an idea of what this looks like to the attacker as they're breaking through the wall and getting over into that default plant. That's it for the video today, guys. Like I said earlier in the video, I will be streaming later on tonight, so make sure to pop over into the stream if you have any questions. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when you upload my next video. And of course, if you haven't joined my Discord, the link in the description is down below. Keep up to date on everything I'm doing and any other announcements that I might have for future content. So I appreciate all the support on the recent videos, and as always,